Good evening. It is the middle of the week. You have made it to hump day. Appreciate you guys if you've been tuning in this entire time. Going to get into some educational things tonight because I know that you don't know how to use your passport. It's not something I just made up. I just realized based off of the conversations I'm having across multiple people. People, like I said, rich people, poor people, black people, white people. It just doesn't matter. There is no standardized way for you guys to learn how to use your passport. And people that do know how to use their passport, you'd be surprised the questions and things I get, especially when it comes down to relocation. Because so many people are overwhelmed. They're just like, well, the digital nomad visa is one of the biggest things that is in the room right now. So we talk about that, and we're going to get into some things not only about the visa process, how your passport works. We're going to talk about healthcare. That's important considering that even if you are a person that doesn't have any pre-existing conditions, the entire experience, even if you get a cold, how do you get better? How do you go about treating yourself? Going to urgent care, what does that look like? We're going to get into that as well as housing. Housing is something that is really important to talk about. So I want to jump in kind of high level, not get too far deep into all of the nuances, but at least give you some high level education on how you can utilize your passport and looking to move abroad. Because listen, if you go to the best schools in the country, high school, um, what is college, even graduate schools after that, you're not going to be given this process of how to go about moving abroad if you are an American and how your passport works unless you've actually utilized it. And so many of you guys already have a passport, but utilize it in a way where you aren't utilizing it in the way that you're thinking that you're about to utilize it. So when you go to Mexico or Jamaica or any of these places for vacation for a little bit, you're like, oh, I got a passport, I can use it. You don't realize that you are already entering into a visa process when you do so to some of these common places. So going to talk about those things. The process with the housing is definitely different than what our expectations are in the United States. And it's something that you guys need to know because these are foundational things. Yet I would say the uneducation that is going on in the United States, or wouldn't even say it's going on, it's just not even being covered, is something that we have to take a look at and decide how do we go about educating each other in a way where it's constructive. So if you want to make certain that you got your pen down, if you like to write things down, definitely do that. If you guys want to make sure that you recorded this so you can see this somewhere else, I don't know where you're watching this, but if you are not on YouTube, that's where all of the videos are. So go to YouTube, Black Expat Life in Colombia, if you are not there already. That is where you can see conversations like this, conversations we've had with other people as well. Make sure you are liking, sharing, following, and subscribing. It helps build the channel, helps us see and reach more people. It's so many people that are looking and typing in move abroad, but the resources that are coming up are, I would say, relatively lacking because they're not getting down to the nitty gritty, the things that you need. Yes, you need to know the best restaurants, and yes, you need to know the things to do and the places that you're looking at. Yeah, that's cool, but the normal stuff, how do I go about finding a house and what that looks like? If I get sick, what does that look like? Even thinking that you need to get a visa, a digital nomad visa, a residency before you even go and visit. These things aren't positioned from an education perspective. So that is what we will be covering tonight. Anybody that is new here, if you guys don't know, my name is RJ. I appreciate everybody for coming out as far as watching these videos because it is important for somebody as well as many other people to be able to give you something that is real regarding this move abroad process. I've been living abroad for the last 3 years in Medellin, Colombia, built community there with others. Gotten to a position where I've learned more Spanish, been able to communicate in ways that I've never thought about. But it all started because I had to do some educational thought processes and some things around this move abroad scenario so that I could prepare myself. And you guys, if you're at home right now and you're still in America, then you are doing the preparation. But your US passport, a lot of people don't know how it works. The conversations or questions that I get about that is, well, should I go about visas when I'm, haven't even moved there? Should I go about coming and looking to immediately purchase a property because I'm looking into the investor real estate visa? Well, there's so many nuances that go into these different visas before you get into what your passport gives you. And we're going to talk about that. But at least let's tell you about what your passport gives you, because a lot of the places that you are going. Now, one thing I will tell you, it is going to differ based off of where you are going. Some places in Southeast Asia, some places in, Latam, they have different regulations for what it is that your passport allows you. However, a lot of places, if you have a blue American passport, it can give you up to 180 days a year. Now, obviously, there's going to be places that it may be less than that. I understand that. But from a general rule of thumb, you do need to go look up where it is and what the regulations are with your passport. But you guys are so ingrained with the digital nomad visa and the visas and the residency process, and not realizing that when you go get to a stamp, when you go on vacation in Jamaica and you get a stamp, that stamp gives you a certain amount of time. They stamp you in and stamp you out, right? Well, that gives you a certain amount of time, usually, depending on country, it's about 90 days. That gives you 90 consecutive days. So if you came on January 1st and left on March 30th, give or take 90 days. That's 90 days that you would have. Whereas you have to get down to the nuances of what that 90 days is, because that one passport stamp does give you 90 consecutive days. But if you happen to leave a week or 2 weeks after, well, guess what? That time stops. So you have a cumulative for the year in many places 180 days. However, most stamps when entering give you 90 days. So if you wanted to stay a full 180 days and not leave the country, you would have to file an extension. Yes, it is a little bit of paperwork. It's not as much as a digital nomad visa or anything else, but it is a little bit of paperwork. But a lot of you are approaching this move abroad and not realizing that you can go do a trial run, do a test run. I always tell you, before you go sell everything, you spent years in America. Before you go sell everything, why wouldn't you at least utilize your passport in a way where it would be beneficial to you to say, okay, I went out there and I'm in a position to go for 3 months. Okay, well, what if you didn't have to sell all your stuff? Because how do you know if it's 100% going to work? And then if you want to reset or decide, well, maybe this place and this place that I saw in a month or two that I was out, that wasn't what I thought it was. So I want to go back home, reset, start looking back at things in a place where I feel comfortable. Well, your passport gives you that, but a lot of you aren't even giving yourself that grace. You're just so ready to leave. We're like, I'm selling all of my things. I'm getting out of America. I don't want to hear anybody to tell me anything different. I'm leaving. I did all my research and I'm ready to go. And I tell you, your research from America on a place that you're looking to go can only extend but so far. And 1 week, 10 days, 15 days is not a real litmus test on what your life is really going to be like there. You're going to get so overwhelmed, even with 15 days. You can be like, oh, well, 15 days seems like about enough time. Maybe, maybe not, because what happens once you spend enough time a period abroad, you realize that the thought process of going back is different. Because when you first get there, you're like, oh man, I've been so overwhelmed. And you're just like soaking up everything. But now once you get used to Medellin or used to Cartagena or used to wherever you're looking to go, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm used to this view. I'm used to seeing this. Do you still like it? What is your life like? How will you know that in 10 to 15 days? You have a blue passport. Most of the places that are on Americans' radar to move abroad do give you up to 180 days in a year. What if you could give yourself, as long as you have the online flexibility to remote work, what if you could give yourself that flexibility? Maybe downsize and, maybe not renew a lease, get a storage unit, put your things there, but still give yourself some flexibility because you guys are ready to go get into a whole relationship with a country that you don't know. Going on the first date with your new potential country, and you have a wedding ring. You're like, you know what? I might just propose. It might just be the perfect first date. Like, what is the? You would say that is crazy, but that is what I get. A lot of people are willing to go propose to the destination that they're looking at, and not realizing that you could go test them out for a little bit, do a little trial run. Date around, see who you like before you go getting into a whole house. And because a lot of people don't realize that these visas are so convoluted, they are so mucky when it comes down to them. Because yes, there are four types of visas. Yes, four types, only four. However, the subcategories of what kind of visas you're going to get under that and what your ultimate goal is. All of this is a very nuanced process that we in America aren't used to. We go from Philadelphia all the way to Los Angeles, cover 3,000 miles, and still in the United States. Whereas other people grow up in other places and can't go that far without running out of their country and into another country. Depending on what country, what place you are, these things are relative. So you have to look at them and understanding that yes, the world is big, and more people are seeing more of the world than you have been given privy to up until this time. So when looking at the visas, the first one we already kind of talked about is the tourist visa, your passport. What does that give you? I do not. People that reach out to me from different places. I only can speak on how American passport works, and I'm not like an American passport specialist. However, most of the people that watch this are American. But I'm starting to run into people that are in other places, the UK, Africa, Jamaica, looking at, well, I'm looking to leave where I'm from. What does that look like? So most of what I'm saying is going to be tailored to an American passport. It is going to be nuanced down to what passport you hold and what country you're going to, where you're going to get differences in timing, what paperwork you may need. But from a tourist perspective, most of the time you can show up with your blue passport and you're good. Now, there have been some changes that have happened. I think a lot of people have maybe Brazil on their their radar. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of the Brazil visa, but I do know that they recently changed it. So you may need some paperwork on this side of the world where you don't normally need a lot of paperwork to go on this side of the world. Make sure you guys are doing the research and looking at what paperwork that you need. However, most of the time you can show up with your bags and your blue passport, and then you have up until the time. Now, what Americans don't know is that discretion is something that we're not used to. So we are used to in America things being very black and white. This is what it is. If you go here, this is what you can expect. And that is comforting in some ways, and because some things are like, well, no, look at the sign. It's right there. But discretion is utilized at immigration as well as in America in ways that we normally don't operate, I would say, in America. So when you get that tourist visa, depends on what's going on that day. You're like, what the heck's that mean? I'm like, anybody that knows what's going on that day. who the agent is at the time that you get checked into you going through immigration. What that agent has on their mind that day all factors in. How long or they've been sitting there at that one place with is about to there's so many discretionary factors that go in because some people will say, yeah, normally I just get a stamp. But this time he wrote something on mine. And it's like there's not a lot of like recourse for that. You just have to get used to how immigration works. Discretion is a thing. We're gonna get into these visas because that is the first one. That's the easiest one to go about normally as an American. Just go, show your passport, stamp, what you're doing here, go on vacation, tourism, and you're in and out. Perfect, easy, right? Plain and simple. You guys seem to forget about that when looking to move abroad, that can get you up to 180 days. I want to harp on that because so many of you are thinking, I need to move abroad and get a residency in somewhere or a visa prior to me moving in order to go and actually see if this place is. Because the thought process to go from sight unseen from America and thinking that you're going to land and everything be smooth when you get there, even with somebody like me who says, okay, we have relocation tours, and you didn't say, okay, well, I want to go on any of your relocation tours, I just want to move straight from here. There would be so many questions that I ask my clients that come and move abroad that are based off of what they've seen. So now they can narrow down based off of what they've seen. Because if you don't know what's in Colombia and you don't know what's in Medellin or you don't know what's in Cartagena and you have expectations that aren't in the place that you are going to, then you could say, yeah, I want a bubblegum house. And there's no bubblegum houses in Medellin. There's no houses made of bubblegum, but that is your expectation based off of what your expectation was in America. So it's not wise or recommended to go sight unseen or with only a little bit of time under your belt in said place before you go sell everything, considering that a lot of these places will give you 180 days. Because once you get there, you can get to know the neighborhoods, the community, what you will be doing on a Tuesday, where you would go play pickleball, where you would, whatever it is that fancies your heart. But you aren't going to know that in a very short amount of time. And I would say 180 days would give you plenty of time to get acclimated, feel it out, get an understanding of, is this what I want? Or is my life better off back in America? Or is my life better somewhere else? Before you get into these other visa categories. Because these visa categories, yeah, welcome to the matrix. The visa categories, these things, they can change daily, weekly, monthly, as far as the requirements that they want. They definitely change yearly. I know in Colombia, a lot of things are based off of the Colombian minimum wage. So if it's 100 times what the Colombian minimum wage is, that means that if you can prove that you have that, then there's no way that you should be a person that moves abroad and becomes a homeless person on another country's streets. However, there are some people that push right on through that. Yes, 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 yes. There are some crazy people out in the world. However, the other three visa categories are where the paperwork comes in. And I know you guys are DIYers, and I talk about this a lot. And I say, if you aren't an immigration lawyer or immigration specialist, not only for the country that you are in, down to the city that you are in, knowing people and knowing how to maneuver things, because the bureaucracy of different places is something also that Americans aren't used to and expecting when they go abroad. You need to go with a professional if you don't want to become one of those professionals, because you may not speak the language and you think, oh, I've got a translator app, so I'm just going to, and it's going to translate exactly what it is that I need. It's going to flow in an effortless way where everything is going to be communicated seamlessly because we live in technology now. Well, you could get all your paperwork submitted and everything else, but you submitted off the last month's requirements. Now, I don't get me wrong, because there are people that will try to railroad you and charge you these extreme rates because they know that you don't know, and it is the best recommendation to go about working with a professional for these other three. However, with Chat GPT and all of these other things, the thing with the Chat GPT, and we talked about this the other day, you don't know what is a wrong answer. So even a nicely dressed wrong answer, you have no credibility to be able to determine if that's a wrong answer. So I tell people when looking at these other visa processes, because there are three, but they come down to short term and long term. Short term and long term. Now, I can't get down to the narrowness of these subcategories because one, different places offer different things in under these subcategories. If you guys are interested in getting a better understanding, we have had multiple conversations with Daniel Luque on our YouTube page. So please just go there. You can see the conversations we have. Reach out to him. Go to the experts page, Smooth Travel Colombia. You can get in contact with him. It's real easy to go get these nuances figured out. But we're going to stay at the high level tonight. And the high level allows you to get an understanding that these three visa categories are going to start asking you for some real personal information. You're like, well, what could they ask? Well, they're going to want some bank statements. Yes, you need to prove to said government on these three visa categories how much you make. Yes. Because if you need to show that you make $3,500, how are they going to prove it? Yes, I make $3,500. Like, okay, well, show me. They're like, no, I make $3,500. No, they're going to ask you for bank statements. But what has also happened is more people are traveling the world. You need fingerprints done. And oh, I'll do my fingerprints at home. No, you need to go to a licensed person. You need to go to a registered person. You need to get an FBI background check done. If you own a business, you need to show good standing and active status within the state that you're registered in. You also need to get certain business documents, and those business documents can't be in English if you are going in certain places. I know in Colombia, you have to get documents apostilled and translated, which runs up the bill on how much things cost. I remember when I first got here, I think I paid like $350 for one person for the digital nomad visa once I got settled and realized I really wanted to be here. Um, people now I don't people I work with do not quote that, but people are getting quoted $1,500 for one person for the same visa. Things change. So when you talk about wanting to go do this, like it's going to take a number of different paperworks in order for you to get it. And yes, you can work on this in the United States, but once again, you're at a first date with a wedding ring. Why would you go and show? Can I see your bank statements? Like, what's the point of me seeing your bank statements, and what's the point of Colombia, Mexico, or anywhere seeing your bank statements before you know that you actually want to be there? Before you know where the neighborhoods are that you actually are going to in that city? How are you determining this stuff? I know. It's difficult, Alan. I get it. But it's going to be more difficult if you put yourself in a scenario where you think that moving with no parachute and jumping out of the plane is your best decision. Tis not. Now, the second is the temporary visa. Temporary visa is funny because digital nomad is a temporary visa. It can get you up to 2 years. And I say up to, and that's why I talked about discretion earlier, because up to. That doesn't mean 2 years that you will get it for 2 years. Some people have gotten it for one. Some people have gotten it for two. I got it for one the first year, and I got it for 6 months the second time. Up to. Discretion shows its face again. And you think that even if you got the 2 years, oh, I got 2 whole years here. That's no time. By the time you get settled, you're going to be like, I gotta renew again. Like you're getting settled. You getting your cedula. You getting your visitor card, your resident card. These things all take time. We are programmed the United States to think that everything moves as fast as the United States. I will tell you, the slowest city in the United States may move faster than many places abroad because nobody is consumed with capitalism like the United States. So oftentimes things get done when they get done. Yes, you're going to need some patience. It's okay. You need to enjoy life. Sit there, woosah. But many times we don't get the opportunity to. But a temporary visa, it is temporary. It doesn't bring you towards any time accumulated there. It's not a fix for long-term living abroad. You will continuously have to renew, and then oftentimes you may have a max renewal under the subcategories of what the temporary visa could possibly run. This is important to know. We already talked about how much paperwork any of these other three outside of your passport you're going to need to run through costs and application costs, never mind certain getting documents, apostille, translated, FBI background check. But then you've got to get into the nuances of what these other ones are. Because this is abroad. This is not like isolated to Colombia. In a temporary situation, 2 years is not a lot of time. You like 5 years is not a lot of time. Well, maybe 5 years is all you need. But some of those visas are things that lead to possible staying as far as a resident accumulation of time. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, I'm going to buy abroad. I get that a lot. I want to buy housing abroad. It's cheap. America, it's cheap. Depends. It depends. It could be cheap, depending on where you go. But if you are looking to purchase property abroad and do it under an investment visa, you need to research where you're going and how much it is the qualification for said investment visa. Because if it is $120,000 in 2025, one, you need cash. Many of these places do not offer financing. Now, if you are able to finance, good and go for you. However, many of these places do not. So now you need to go about having 120,000 in cash. But wait, if you are in a position to have to renew, because first 5 years gives you up to 5 years, but you need a cumulative of X amount of years, depending on the location, to be able to be qualified as a resident. Well, what happens, at least in Colombia, it is based off of the minimum wage. So if it is 100,000 times the minimum wage, well, the minimum wage in Colombia, unlike America, goes up every year. Yes, the third world country has a minimum wage where the minimum wage, one, allows you to have a roof over your head if you work for somebody, but two, increases with the cost of living. And this is often in many other countries that have been third world country labeled. I say all of that is because if it goes up and 5 years later, and you only bought at the bare minimum 5 years ago, and it's now $160,000 in value, but you only have a $120,000 house, guess what? You are $40,000 in value short. You don't qualify. Think about this, guys. It's a lot of paperwork. That's why I tell y'all, most people will rush in and say, yeah, I'll take your money. Yeah, you want to buy a house? Sure, let's go do it. I'll show you the houses. We'll go put you in the process right now. For what? Just for you to call me and say you had a bad time or you feel like you rushed into the process knowing what you know now? That does nothing for me. This is not a business that is open to today and closed tomorrow. This is somebody that you can contact as you guys go to other places, go to different locations in the destinations that you are, and get connected to real resources that actually care about you having a good time. Because I talk to people that are already having a bad time where they are. You guys don't realize that it's so many opportunities for you to have the time in life that you want. But knowing these things is where you start. Now, the two other visas are the migrant visa and the resident visa. Yes, if you didn't know, you moving abroad, moving from America, want to call yourself a digital nomad or an expat, that's whatever you'd like to brand yourself as, but you are an immigrant. You are a migrant. Take the M off, and you are a migrant. It's okay. And that's what the visa is called. There are so many different visas, but these ones will lead you to long-term stay in your destination. The subsets and subcultures of these things can go on forever, depending on where you are looking. And once again, I am not the professional. I just want to bring y'all some high-level education on one, to stop thinking that you need to go get residency in these these visas that isn't a digital, even a digital nomad visa. Why? Use your 180 days wisely for the benefit of you and the success of your long-term life abroad. Unless you plan on just flashing the pan in and out, you need to start wrapping your head around these things. It's really important for you to do so. Some of these other things that are going to be important, once again, for you guys to realize is housing. We talked about the investor visa, and so many people are looking to buy that house. And I might have bust somebody's bubble when they heard that they can't finance that $150,000 house to qualify for the investor visa in Colombia or anywhere else. Yeah. But did you also know that you have a thought process that does not add up outside of America? Many of the places that people are looking to go move abroad, we are used to in America a real estate agent. That real estate agent has had to take a realtor's test, pass. They then needed to be hired by a reputable brokerage firm, held by certain compliance, right? That's how it all goes. You go in the MLS, the price of the house is listed everywhere the exact same price. That is what we're used to in the United States. Well, there is no MLS listing. People can literally, anyone can sell and or rent you a house. I could go in tomorrow and say, "Hey guys, I'm a renter," and I could start showing you the properties on behalf of the owner, and carve out a living with no real estate license and or experience outside of being a travel agent. But some people aren't even that. Yes, things are a little different abroad. So how do you go about navigating the differences between what your expectations are for housing and what your expectations are for housing abroad? Well, one is going to get narrowed down to your country, and then get narrowed down to your city, and then get narrowed down to your state, then your city, and then to your neighborhood. All of these things can be nuanced. Uh, Housing in Cartagena is completely different than housing in Medellin, which is different than Santa Marta. All of these things, pricing, amenities, it's all completely relative. But if you don't know and you didn't use your 180 days wisely, you just ran into it and said, "Oh, I'm just going to find the first thing on Airbnb that looks nice on Airbnb, but it's in the worst neighborhood or it's the furthest away from everything, or you need a car to get to things." Please, people, take your time. We can give you guys a blueprint to come in 100 days, but it is about following some very, very direct steps. If you had to go microwave it and put it into 100 days, I got you, but you're going to learn a little bit before you even get in all out of America. So many of you guys are in scenarios also where you're like, my credit is terrible. I don't even know what kind of housing I'm going to be able to afford overseas. I always tell them about America being a snow globe. But once you get out of that snow globe, nobody knows that you are don't pay bills on time. I guess that's what credit shows. I guess whatever. Sure. Nobody knows that. Nobody's asking you what is your credit score in America? Do you have the money? Yes. Welcome. Bienvenidos a tu casa. Seriously. So that credit score thing, do not let that be a factor by any means. You also can't go often finance homes abroad. So that is not something that you're going to have to worry about. Also, you do need to have cash. So that runs into a lot of factors why a lot of people aren't purchasing immediately. And if they are, it may be under another visa type, depending on where they're going. But one of the things that I think is not only unique about the fact that, yeah, the credit score goes out the window, um, but plenty of places are furnished abroad. Oh, yes, you can get unfurnished. Unfurnished does get into deeper nuances that we're not going to get into tonight. I would say high level, deeper nuances because unfurnished, you would need to probably sign a longer term lease. You would need to show that either you may have to think. I know in Colombia you need something like a fiador, which is like a guarantee that you aren't just going to leave the country and not have paid your bills. Like, yes, those things do run into different scenarios. However, what I tell people is, especially when using your 180 days, um, go on Airbnb. You don't have to go get into a rental agreement. Yes, it may be cheaper. if you go off Airbnb. But there's a lot of things that you don't consider because you think everything is so black and white. Things can be and things cannot be. But that is not at your discretion. That is the discretion of the country and as well as the world that you happen to live in. I say that is because you don't want to say, okay, well, I'm going to give 6 months and I'm going to give them a deposit plus first month. So half a month's rent and 1 month to move in. I always like to get a relationship going with who it is that I'm running from because I need to know if something is wrong, what is your responsiveness in fixing it? Because if I give you a large lump sum of money and you may not be as incentivized to fix it, that's just my rule of thumb with moving abroad. Like, I will get into longer term contracts once we have established a relationship because relationships are probably one of the biggest keys to success abroad. And once you determine that, yes, this person, if there's a problem in the house, these people get it fixed. This is done, this is taken care of in a timely manner. It's easy. I can get my rent to them easily. Like all of these things factor in before I go and say, yeah, I'm going to give these people a year's worth of rent up front. Because some people will come at you like, yeah, well, we'll take a year's worth of rent up front. Like even if it's $1,000 a month, to give somebody $12,000 at one time in the United States, Jeffrey dollars, I personally would shy away from it. Now, if you have to buy a house, that's a different process. But if you're renting, your safest bet is Airbnb before you get to know your owner. It's like taking your big brother with you on a date. Because that way you have a buffer in between you and the owner. That way, if something goes wrong, that you have some protection. Before you get to know this owner, the responsiveness, if they keep their place clean, or if it was already messed up, or things weren't never fixed, but they just look nice. Like these are all things that you need to look in because when you get into furnishings, not every house in Colombia, not every house in Mexico, not every house in Panama offers the same things. You guys come from different places, so you might have different amenities that are in your house that are not standard depending on where you're going. Air conditioning may not be standard in the place. I'm 6'3". A king size bed, it could be hard to come by. Washer, dryer, dishwasher, all things that can be relatively expensive. Multiple TVs, which you guys got scared about, and you're starting to see on the on your shows is import taxes and tariffs and fees. Yeah, electronics and appliances are more expensive than they are in the United States, or at least last time I lived in the United States. Coming abroad, even clothes are more expensive abroad than the Nike and more expensive because they've got higher import fees and taxes and tariffs that are on them. So these different amenities down to in your apartment, never mind, do you want a place with an elevator? Would you sacrifice space in your house to have an elevator? Because many places I know that don't have an elevator, you might have to go to the fourth or fifth floor, have a very big apartment. Whereas the places with elevators might not have as big as an apartment. What matters to you? But you need to go also inspect what you expect with these. Yes, you can get it. You can get the perfect place for you. But you need to realize that you can't go into it with American expectations that, oh, this is just going to be there when I get there. I'm talking to my folks, if you like washcloths and it's a furnished place, you think you don't need to bring your own washcloths? All of this is relative. It's all valuable information to help you try to get that figured out. Do you want to get into a contract? I tell you guys, until you know the people, I wouldn't get into any paperwork. Yes, it may save you a couple $100 off the Airbnb fee, but the risk initially is not worth the reward, in my opinion, especially because things will automatically, especially coming like, I mean, even Mexico, it's probably going to be way cheaper than what you're paying in the United States. You could probably get everything all included for what you pay just for rent. So fully furnished, gym, pool in the place, and all the utilities. Maybe Mexico, I think you got to pay like electric, but these things are doable. You got to set your expectation. But if you are only a Airbnb surfer and you think that you're going to really get a good understanding of what this is going to look like for you long term, just going on your phone in America, looking and just packing and selling all your stuff, you aren't doing it the right way at all. You guys would be surprised too that the property market could be more expensive depending on where you're going than what you think it is. Now, you can get a beautiful spot. I saw something the other day. It was like $100,000 in Mexico for like a one bedroom or studio apartment that had like a view of the ocean or something. It's not bad. It's not bad. But also, you have to remember that your credit score being a non-factor is a good thing and a bad thing. Because if you have great credit, you're like, well, I can just finance it. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. So you have to understand how the property market works. And the best thing I can tell people that are interested in purchasing property, there's a there's a twofold scenario that happens. The first fold is getting in contact with a trusted real estate brokerage firm. Trusted is the first word that I said though. Remember that. Because you can find, take the trusted off, and a brokerage real estate firm like that will actually help you and guide you through the process all the way from soup to nuts. But you should go with a trusted one, somebody that somebody has already vetted, somebody that's already worked with. Then they need to pair you with an immigration lawyer. One, if you're looking for the visa, obviously that is direct there, but there are some nuances from the banking perspective, from some legal matters that you want to have buttoned up, especially if you don't speak the language. How do you know somebody could be saying something directly in front of you and then you got to get tuned in? And you don't have somebody trusted in the room that is actually on your side, these things are important not to navigate blindly without. Now, a lot of you guys are looking to move abroad and that forgetting once again you're taking America with you. So you're thinking, I make 100,000 or I need to make 100,000, in the United States to feel like I'm living comfortably. Pero things are just at a premium. America is a Gucci belt and a tank top. Like it's not who they say that it is. Everything there costs more and is of lower quality. Your best thing that America gave you is the ability to make American dollars as long as American dollars are in a position of favorable amongst other dollars globally, and to take it and see what it can actually do in places where things aren't priced just so you can finance somebody's boat or second or 15th house in Malibu. Like these things are realistic. They're charging you expensive rates for things that they're importing. Like strawberries in Colombia, you can get a kilo. That's 2.2 pounds for like 4,500 pesos, 5,000 pesos. So let's call that like $1.50. Whereas those same strawberries in Colombia get exported from Colombia to the United States and sold back to you for way less at a higher rate in your local Whole Foods. What if you weren't spending all your money on strawberries, bro, or the Whole Foods bill? Imagine what your quality of life would be like. I see so many people that get to move abroad and realize that they're having a $100,000 a year lifestyle on 50 or 40, thinking that they had to work themselves to get to that magic number in the room, yet they're able to afford quality schools, activities for their kids. Their kid, I know a dude that had his kids in uh, um, horseback riding and karate like twice a week, and it was like $200 a month for two kids, two separate classes twice a week, 200, 250. America is charging you just to say that you're there. And you aren't even getting all of the value that everyone else thinks that you're getting by being in America. That's why you're here. So when you get the cost of living shock when you go abroad and you say, man, we went out and we sat down, there was two people, we got a drink and appetizer and food, and it cost $20 with the tip. Imagine. Do you remember when that happened? Now, I don't see dollar menus and things of that nature, so they don't bring that back abroad. But these things are definitely seen when you get abroad. But you have to take these first couple of steps that I talked about earlier before you can see daily cost of living shock, because I'm telling people that are in the States, and I'm like, listen, I know that you are doing something where you make $188,000 a year, but your quality of your life is terrible. I'm seeing people that have high paying jobs that are looking to career change into lower paying jobs by number, but allows them more time with their family. By moving abroad, they're able to cut their salary in half, but have more time with their family and increase the quality of life. I think everybody goes to work to be able to do the things that they want. Did y'all forget that? Unless you're Scrooge McDuck, nobody is like, I've got all of the things, all of the money, all of the Rolexes. Isn't it grand? No, you went to go get all of that money so that you could do what you wanted to do. Spend time with your loved ones. Have a good time when you wanted to, without it being the choice between the lights being on and them not being on. You remember you wanted that? Yet so many people are thinking that I can't move abroad because how am I going to make $100,000 abroad? I mean, there are ways, but do you need to? Or are you taking what you are experiencing and expecting from America, considering how much everything in America costs, and not realizing that depending on where you go, it can go way down. Even in places like Panama. Panama uses US dollar. They use the US dollar. However, there's nowhere in the United States you can get oceanfront property, one bedroom, two bedroom condo for under $1,500. Just doesn't exist. Where? At this point in 2025. So these things, you have to understand your expectations, both what you're looking to come abroad with from America, as well as what you could be experiencing once you get out. We got to bring some light. We got to bring some education. You got to know how your passport works. You got to know what the different visa types are so that you realize why your passport works is because y'all jumping to the second and third and fourth visa type and hadn't even spent 180 days in the location that you're claiming that you want to live in for the time being or the next couple of years while Trump is in office. And I'm like, if you guys haven't put it together that the next couple of years may dictate remaining portion of what those years look like afterwards, I don't know if you'll go back after 3.5 years and say, well, glad he's out, things are back to normal. What will normal look like if this is the normal that you're dealing with now? So these things are designed to say, like, all right, I know there's no education. There's no education on this stuff. Nobody's going to sit with you on a time and sit here and tell you, like, you don't have to skip steps. The steps are there. The steps, I tell people, you don't want to be put in the elevator to the top. The reason why is, yes, you could get to the top and be like, man, the top is awesome. But things happen. Bad things happen. Challenges happen. It rains sometimes. It's not always sunny days. And when those things happen, and if you get knocked down a peg and you're no longer at the top, well, how did you get there? Well, if it's not another elevator coming, you don't even know the steps that it took to actually get to where it is that you said that you wanted to. Do not be afraid to take the steps. This might be a life lesson for some people. Do not be afraid to take the steps, both with this process and in life, because it's not always going to be the perfect scenario. I tell you, I don't guarantee anything. All I do is give you enough that can hopefully increase the probability of you having success. If you take some of these things here and you take some of these things here, you're now increasing the probability of you getting to the life that you want to live. But if you're looking to just take this elevator process and it's just drop me off at the top, homie, I'll be good. This is not going to work. There's so many different nuances that you need to get through in understanding where you are today, what it's going to take to get where you want to be, and then who you need to be once you are actually in location and how you get your life together from that perspective. So, understanding that you might not need to have a $100,000 a year job or a $80,000 a year job to move abroad, considering where you're going. Hey, what's up, bro? These things are important. You have to do the considerations for this. But the considerations, hopefully somebody will give you something, myself, tonight that'll give you something to go back to your own drawing board and put back onto the vision board and say, hey, like, I didn't have this on my radar. I need to look at this differently because if I get 180 days, why would I go and put all this paperwork in front of some people, let everybody in my business and know exactly how much I have and what things I spend my money on, because those are the things that they have to look at. Go and get an FBI background check and get your fingerprints done and submit that to another government. That is a lot. That is a lot to want to be in bed with, and you don't have to initially. You could do that. You could spend, realistically, you could spend 180 days in one country and then go spend the next 180 days in another country and never have to do any paperwork besides keep your passport active if you wanted to. You could spend 6 months January to June, and then from June to December, and never have to do anything but keep your passport and go. Oh, you might have to get an extension if you don't go anywhere in those 180 days. But that is a lot easier than FBI background check, apostille documents. These things are important, guys, to consider. Because when you get abroad, once you get there, you got to think, okay, well, what else may be different than what my expectations are? Because the healthcare piece is such a unique thing. You guys pay, let's say you pay $300 a month for insurance, right? But when you get sick, or you need to go see a doctor, you need to go pay a copay, $35. You go to the urgent care, it might be $60, right? Then you go to the primary care doctor, and the doctor says you need to go to a specialist. Well, it's a specialist, so yes, it is covered by insurance. You need to make sure you go to somebody in network. But you also going to get another copay, and because it's a specialist, maybe that 35 is now like 70 or 50. Now, this is just 1 month that you had to go see two doctors. And now maybe somebody wrote you his prescription. And depending on what kind of healthcare you have, your prescription cost could be $5 for the pills. It could be $50, $150 for the month's supply. It depends on what it is that you have going on. I say that is because that's what you're used to. Even to going to the urgent care. You go into urgent care. I went to the doctor's the other time I was in the United States, and I was like, what's the point of me having an appointment at 8:30? Like, you get there early, you got your 8:30, people are already there. 8:30 comes, 8:30 goes, 9 o'clock comes, 9 o'clock goes, 9:30 comes. Now you're seeing a new wave of people. And it's like, I'm not spending my entire day in the doctor's office, yet you've given me no choice. Then when you go in there, you finally see the nurse, and the nurse comes in, hey, how you doing? Fine, get your blood pressure, get your blood, going to weigh you, do this, all this fun stuff. And then next thing you know, you see the doctor. And the doctor spends about 5 minutes with you, but you have spent upwards of 2.5 hours outside of your house, probably early in the morning, or at least on time, taking off from work, trying to do these things that you need to do just to stay alive. And then they write you a nice little hefty bill on your way out. They draw blood. That wasn't the copay. It's like, oh, we should draw blood while you're here. Oh, but before you leave, I'll take this up there. Well, it's another $20 before you get out of here, sir. And I'm like, I got $20, but I'm like, what if you were like, you just went to the doctor to try to see, and they hit you for $70, $80, $90, and you've already paid insurance for the month. Now, pale that in comparison to what you may see when you get abroad. I'll give you even something down, not into a human. I had a dog, rest in peace, Nino Brown. Had a dog. Wasn't feeling well. Attitude was off. I could tell something was wrong. Like, so found a doctor in Columbia, veterinarian. They were like, yeah, we'll come to the house. Okay. Came to the house. Now, when they came to the house, I was like, well, how much is it going to cost for you to come to the house? They're like, equivalent to like $30, $35. Like, So, came to the house, start talking to the dog, giving him all types of love, everything. She asked us a couple questions. Dog needed an IV, was dehydrated, took his temperature, gave the dog an IV. Dog sitting there getting an IV drip. I go in my room because I'm working. She's still there. Come out. Maybe like 40 minutes later. The dog and her are sitting on the floor. She has an aromatherapy, like mister, like just going up. She's got like some ambient sounds on. My dog's just sitting there with his eyes closed, and she's just rubbing his cheeks. And he's like, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, why are you? You've been here for 40 plus minutes. Why are you still here? I only gave you $35. And I was just like, there are so many things that you see where it's like, everybody asks me, living in Colombia, like, oh, well, how is it? Do you miss all the things that you have in the United States? And I'm like, no. I get everything that I have in the United States. It's just cheaper and more convenient, and it's actually more personable. I seen this dog get more care for a cheaper price in my house than it does cost me with no insurance, with no. This was out of pocket. Yet, and dog insurance costs $30 in the United States per month, depending on what kind of dog you have, and all of the extra things that you. If you guys have a pet, you are know what I'm talking about. Imagine a veterinarian coming to your house, giving your dog an IV drip, literally spending time with your dog, sitting there, giving them a massage, putting them in the perfect Zen-like state. I was sitting here like, I haven't been sick yet, but are they going to treat me like this? I'm hoping I'm getting the puppy treatment when I do get sick. And I did. I ended up getting sick one time. And I didn't get the puppy treatment. She didn't give me the massages or anything. But for $40, I was able to get a doctor to come to my house. They told me I could get x-rays in the house, blood work done in the house. These things were important to me, from being able to, one, go to English-speaking doctors that were able to come to my house, not have to go out into the streets when you're sick, drive yourself to the pharmacist. Oh yeah, because when they wrote me a prescription, not only was it like $2, it wasn't something that I had to even leave my house. So many things are behind the red tape in the United States, things that can just basically help people, but you have to go from the primary care doctor to the specialist just to be able to get the prescription written. And then the prescription is going to be the designer brand, or even that's going to cost you $35 per pill at generic. Whereas the entire prescription you gave me for like having like it was like the flu or cold or something, it was like $1, and it was delivered. Yeah, I didn't have to go out and be inconvenienced. Even when I was able to, when our dog got old and had to put my dog down, that process was even crazy because normally you'd have to take an old sick dog to the PetSmart or somewhere, and that process and getting him in the car, seeing the look in his eyes. I was able to have my dog put down because he was in really bad shape. Like he was just bad. He was really old. He was like 14 years old, and he was a little tiny dog. But I say that is because the level of care that they showed that dog, the level of care when he was alive, the level of care that he had on his way out, the level of care that I have received in home or abroad, it is miles away from what it is that I just went home and dealt with this, and I was like, why am I been here for 2.5 hours just to get charged up the wazoo, and I already pay insurance monthly? I'm sitting here with a bunch of people that are sick, and I'm like, I'm not sick. I just am going to the doctor, and I don't want to be around like, but this is what America gives you. And people always say, well, what about the doctors abroad? Last time that somebody went to to somebody's house was probably Dr. Huxtable and Dr. Hibbert. It's probably the last time you seen a doctor go to somebody's house with a bag and say, "How can I help you?" Unless you are somebody that is rich and has millions of dollars and a doctor on call. Yeah, these things can be brought to you in a way where it doesn't cost you as nearly as much. Yes, I pay for international traveler insurance. However, I often pay for things out of pocket when I need it because it's $4 for for non-prescription medication that will cost me prescription, and I have to go through insurance to get it. These things are things that you need to realize may be waiting for you on the other side. We talked about what you need to do before you leave, how to understand how your passport works, because so many of you guys are ready to take a leap, not realizing that you technically may have 180 days before you have to get in bed with the destination that you are looking at. You need to understand how these different visa types work. What is your long-term goal? What is your short-term goal? A digital nomad visa, you want to be there for 2 years, maybe 4 years max? Great, that's short-term. You think 4 years is a long time, that is still technically short-term. You want to live in said country, build a life, start a family, do whatever it is that you're looking to do. You may need to get into the other visa types. And then the subcategories are all nuanced down to the location that you're going to. These things are important. Understanding that you may not need to go have $100,000 a year job on paper to live the actual life that you want to live. Don't let that number keep you keep you in America, not realizing that things don't cost as much. You could have that and still have a better quality life than what $100,000 is affording you in the United States. Now, that is nuanced down to where it is that you are going with said remote work. But you need to realize that it has not been given to you from a real perspective. It's been this gray area of what the truth is and what the truth could be. But to understand that your value can change in the most positive way. You can completely shatter what you believe is the standard of life that you deserve to live. You can completely shatter whatever you have in your head right now. It could change all of the way. It could do a complete 180 and say, I now value things that are of substance. I now am able to wake up in the morning and go work out and go swimming in my own pool. Like, I didn't know that I needed that, but you found it. And what does that do for your quality of life, your self-esteem, your mental health, your physical health, the longevity that you have on this earth, wherever that time is, the things that you were doing that made your life worth living? Many times, many Americans aren't doing anything that is actually making their life worth living. They're just gooding up and going at whatever it is that seems like the thing to do. But there's an education process that needs to come before you get to your best life. So hopefully you learned a little bit of something that you didn't learn today before you got on here, excuse me. Maybe you had some of these things, but not all of them. I don't know where you are in your travel journey in regards to education. But what I do know is so many of us are at the crossroads of where do I go? How do I get some information that is going to help me make decisions that will positively impact my life? Yes, I can talk to you about where to go to get some good food, but does that actually help you learn how your blue passport works that's sitting there collecting dust? Does that help prepare you for the things that you need to do and or not do when moving? Because if you don't want to spend 180 days getting to learn where it is that you're going, then why would you sit there and say that you want to sell everything you own and put all your eggs into one basket and live on that hill? I don't understand the thought process behind that. But I understand the thought process when I realize it stems from a lack of education of how these passport works. And it's not your fault. I'm not calling you uneducated. I'm saying there was no programs and resources. These things are starting to be done now in abundance. People that look like us, people our age are starting to do that. And so many people haven't even stopped writing the history to even sit back and say, let me put this in a way that somebody that didn't start their journey yet can actually come and start their journey with us or start their journey on their own. That is where we are today. That's why we do these conversations, to help you get something that you did not receive as a child growing up. How to get the hell out of the United States. It's okay. Maybe the US has worn out its welcome in your heart. I know it has on mine. There are not a lot of good planets. There are not a lot of good countries. I'm not saying that America is the worst country in the world, because please, you guys got to understand that. I just know that there may be other things that may be more in tuned for you. So I say, America may be the best country in the world, but is it the best country for you? If it is, great. If it's not, this conversation was designed to hopefully give you something that you now know what you can do to help narrow down, help navigate. Don't go sell all your stuff and say I'm moving abroad. Don't go going to a place and I bought the digital nomad visa, or I'm going to go buy a house over here and get the investor visa, and you don't even know what neighborhood you want to be in. You don't know if you want to be in the place with no elevator because it's going to be bigger, or you want to be in a place that's going to be newer with an elevator and has a pool and a 24-hour security. But you also don't want to be on the side of a hill because you don't want to have a car when you get there. All of these nuances are hard to think about when it's hot as hell in the United States and you're ready to get out of the fire. That's why I bring it to light, because you are overworked and overwhelmed and underpaid. But we're here to give you some reality. some things you can land on that hopefully help you navigate these scenarios. So thank you guys once again. It has been up until an hour, so appreciate you guys for always tuning in. If you happen to be watching this and the replay, make sure that you are sharing this with somebody. If you guys are not on YouTube, please do me a favor. Go to YouTube, go to Black Expat Life in Colombia. Please subscribe, please like, comment. Let me know what it is that you guys want to talk about, what you want to hear about life abroad. I will tune in and tap in with some of the things that you have outside of the topics that I have to cover to give you guys this education. I'm excited to continue these opportunities. We have so much in store. You guys are going to be so amazed at what is getting put together behind the scenes. The community, the resources, the additional locations that are going to be available to you by coming through us, and not only listening, but getting access to resources from destination based as well as things that happen when you move abroad. Like I told you, you can go from $100,000 to $50,000 a year job, or even if you kept 100,000, but your lifestyle, it only costs you 50,000. What could you do extra with $50,000 a year? Maybe you could pay some student loans off. Maybe you could build the wealth that you could not build in the United States with ends barely meeting. Who knows? Possibilities are endless, but the only thing and the only way that you are going to see this is one, you guys go to Move Travel Colombia. That's two O's in Move, two O's in Colombia.com. MoveTravelColombia.com. You got free resources there. We have our virtual relocation conference coming up this weekend. We will be having a webinar that'll be free for you guys to tune in. I'm excited to continue to roll out this additional information to y'all. Y'all just make sure that you are sharing this with somebody that needs to hear this message. Thank you for tuning in, and hasta mañana.